Okay, guck mal, die Pisser schon wieder. Alter, Mann, hören Sie mal auf zu nerven. Fuck.
Ist es Pisse oder Putzmittel? Oh, ist es Kotze oder Ketamin? Mit Spinat und das ist ganz, ganz feine Keramik. Ach nee, ist Koks auf Laminat.
Du sagst Ausländer raus hier. Fun Facts, wir wohnen hier. Ist dieser Onkel verwandt mit dir? Aus der Geschichte lernen wir leider nicht.
Ich bin kein Nazi, aber laber, laber, laber. Ich bin kein Nazi, aber laber, laber.
Ist das Kacke mit Weißbier?
Hast du einen Adler als Haustier? Sag mal.
Hallo Kartoffelpolizeirevier?
Nee,
Du bist kein Freund von mir.
wie bist du wieder drauf hier?
Dachte, das ist auch mein Haus hier.
Ich trete gleich auf was drauf hier.
Ihr kleinen blauen Scheißer,
nie wieder. Ich bin kein Nazi, aber laber, laber, laber. 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 Braun ist keine Farbe des Regenbogens. Braun entsteht durch zu viel Schwarz-Rot-Gold. Irgendwo im Kleinhirn bist du falsch abgebogen und jetzt fühlst du dich plötzlich fremd. Braun ist keine Farbe des Regenbogens. Braun entsteht durch zu viel Schwarz-Rot-Gold. Du bist durch dein eigenes Arschloch geboren worden. Wer hat dir das angetan? Braun ist keine Farbe des Regenbogens.
lass doch blau, einfach blau und scheiße, scheiße sein.
Braun ist keine Farbe des Regenbogens.
Lass doch blau, einfach blau und scheiße, scheiße sein.
Vergessen, wie sich's anfühlt, wenn man anders ist. Braun ist keine Farbe des Regenbogens.
Zeig mir dein. Ja, ja, ja. Und ich zeig dir mein. Zeig mir dein. La, 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 la. Und ich zeig dir mein. Zeig mal. La, 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 la.
Oh, ich sitze in der Sauna mit meinem, der noch nie eine Frau sah. Oh, ich bin verzaubert, was für einen, der da drüben unterm Bauch hat.
Ich schau nach links, ich schau nach rechts. Kann es gar nicht fassen, sind die alle echt? Und der Bademeister gibt mir den Rest. Wie kriegt er seinen riesengroßen in die Speedo gepresst? Entschuldigung, das kommt jetzt vielleicht dumm. Aber ich sah sie
Versteht mich jetzt nicht falsch, ich finde Gespräche richtig. Merk dir, was du sagen wolltest, ist bestimmt sehr wichtig. Gut für die Debatte, gut für den Diskurs. Gut für meine Laune wäre, alle drehen durch. Das hier ist ne Party und ich bin zum Tanzen da. Katte Geplänkel, bin nicht mehr in meinen 20ern. Schluss mit dem Blabla, Schluss mit den Gesprächen. Ab heute werden endlich wieder Tische durchgetreten.
Zeit für bewegen. Ich hab mir das jetzt lang genug mit angesehen und weiß, dass gute Partys anders gehen. Schluss mit Reden.
Mama, warum schreit der Mann so laut? Mama kann dich gerade nicht hören. Mama reißt ein Moshpit auf. Mama, alles gut bei dir? Mama geht's fantastisch. Das ist, weil der Bass fickt. Was? Das ist, weil der Bass fickt.
Ich hab mir das jetzt lang genug mit angesehen und weiß, dass gute Partys anders gehen. Schluss mit Reden.
Letztens waren wir noch am Meer, scheint ewig lange her. Heute wünsch ich dir getoast, schwarzen Schimmel auf deinem Toast. Und dass alle deine Typen mangelhaft verhüten. Und du fragst mich, wie sich's lebt. Und du fragst mich, wie's mir geht. Und ich sag 1, 2, 3, 4, ich bin gar nicht frustriert. Und ich sag 5, 6, 7, 8, bin nie alleine in der Nacht. Und ich sag 1, 2, 3, 4, ich bin gar nicht frustriert. Ich sag 5, 6, 7, 8, bin nie alleine in der Nacht. So, oh, 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 oh. Letztens haben wir noch gelacht und alles zusammen gemacht. Heute stehst du einfach hier mit einem anderen Typen in der Tür. Und ich lach dir ins Gesicht, wünsch dir Hinhalt wie Gicht. Ja, ich weiß, ich bin allein, gesteh's mir einmal noch nicht ein. Und ich will gern mit dir gehen, dich einfach wiedersehen. Und du fragst mich, wie sich's lebt. Und du fragst mich, wie's mir geht. Und ich sag 1, 2, 3, 4, ich bin gar nicht frustriert. Und ich sag 5, 6, 7, 8, bin nie alleine in der Nacht. Und ich sag 1, 2, 3, 4, ich bin gar nicht frustriert. Ich sag 5, 6, 7, 8, bin nie alleine in der Nacht. So, oh, 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 oh. Letztens haben wir noch gelacht und alles zusammen gemacht. Heute stehst du einfach hier mit einem anderen Typen in der Tür. Und ich lach dir ins Gesicht, wünsch dir Inhalt wie Gicht. Und du fragst mich, wie sich's lebt. Und du fragst mich, wie's mir geht. Und ich sag 1, 2, 3, 4, ich bin gar nicht frustriert. Und ich sag 5, 6, 7, 8, bin nie alleine in der Nacht. Und ich sag 1, 2, 3, 4, ich bin gar nicht frustriert. Ich sag 5, 6, 7, 8, bin nie alleine in der Nacht. Und ich sag 1, 2, 3, 4, ich bin gar nicht frustriert. Und ich sag 5, 6, 7, 8, bin nie alleine in der Nacht. Und ich sag 1, 2, 3, 4, ich bin gar nicht frustriert. Und ich sag 5, 6, 7, 8, bin nie alleine in der Nacht. So,
Hallo, hallo, hallo.
Scheint ewig lange her. Heute wünsch ich dir getoast, schwarzen Schimmel auf
Lange
deinem
nicht
Toast.
gesehen. Hallo, liebe Leute. Willkommen. Welcome to our yearly little stream. Yay! My hair's changed again, as it usually does when it's short. We're starting to get a mullet situation going here. Ich sehe lehrerisch aus. Ich hoffe, das ist eine gute Sache. Ja, hallo, hallo, hallo. Привет, hi, bonjour. I know, right? I've been making it stand up. Honestly, the thing is, I've always felt like I need some height on my head, and with the long hair that I had for years and years and years, I could never really get that. Now, instead, I get these little stragglers. Anyway, this isn't a hair stream. I cut these myself, by the way, if you can tell. So happy to see everybody. I feel like I should maybe make the chat window a bit smaller because the text seems big to me. Let's shrink that a little bit. I also don't know why I'm so dark. It should be lighter. Anyway, hey, listen. If you can hear me right, and I think you can, that means this is maybe the first stream where we're not experiencing any major technical difficulties to start off. Hopefully I didn't just jinx it. But yeah, should we do color up? Nah, I'll leave it down. Hi, how's everyone? Who's here? I see there's over 30 people in here, which is great after a whole year. Nach einem ganzen Jahr, einem weiteren Jahr. How did y'all get into 2026? I hope you had um a nice New Year's, a nice holiday season. Um, I did. I did. There was a lot this year, apart from like, ähm, ja, mehr als 30, genau. Um, Jedward, that's a bit too much height, and also that's a really dated reference, isn't it? Are they still a thing? Um, yeah, and um, I went to a thing as is visible from this little thing on my wrist. I went to a thing and got a thing on my wrist. Um, I went to C3 this year, first time. It was really cool. Which is I don't know how I think it's fairly known outside of Germany, isn't it? It's Chaos Communication Congress is what it's called. It's in Hamburg, and it's it's a nerd meetup. No, it started as like a hacker conference, and it's grown a bit beyond that since. A lot of political stuff, a lot of um, cool hobbyist stuff, a lot of like hack related things in different like hacker mindset, even though that's cringe to say by now because it's been so overdone with the whole life hack thing, but I hope you get what I mean, like thinking outside the box basically. Eine Gulasch-Programmiernight, das klingt ja Nacht, das klingt ja auch ähm, das klingt ja auch sehr spannend. Sie leben noch, aber sind jetzt in Vergessenheit. Äh, I love it. I feel at this point, mittlerweile sind wir definitiv beim Du. Sie klingt komisch, wenn du zu mir sie sagst. Ich lebe in Vergessenheit. I'm living in obscurity. That's a very harsh way to put it, I feel like, or not harsh, but like very. You're bringing it home. So I am surprised that like as many people as there are that are still around. Um, but you're right. You're right. Nothing much has been. Verzeihung. Okay, verstanden, verstanden. Ähm, by the way, ist es übrigens okay, Adlerwitt, wenn ich deinen echten Vornamen benutze, weil ich den ja kenne, oder soll ich einfach deinen Username benutzen? Okay, Bob. Also, hi, Bob. But bye, Bob. Danke, dass du reingeschaut hast. Your fan club is small but are reasonably persistent. Yeah, that's kind of it, isn't it? I feel like you get what in German you would call the hardcore, which I mean I guess that's where that word comes from, doesn't it? So it's not just German. So the harte Kern, the hard core, the hard pit, the hard seed. I feel like that exists in any community of reasonable size. but it's very touching to see that, um, you know, my existing on the internet is meaningful enough to some people to still be around. That's really nice. Oh, hey, it's Brian M. I'm sure if I check Patreon, Brian, I probably already have a new message from you on there as well. But hi, and thank you so much. Thank you for your congrats every year. And I was gonna say something else about I have a thing in my brain about my hair still. Oh, right. I don't use hairspray. I've been using the what do you call it? I don't know what it's called in English. Volume powder. Like, this put it on your head like you're salting your head and then yeah, it stays up and it works. Uh I used gel or not gel, like wax for a while, but that didn't help at all. It just made it stick to my head and made my hair flatter. So yeah. Um Now I nope, it's neither of the it's not gel, it's not mousse, it's dry. It's dry. It's really like it comes in a little cylinder and it has holes as if it were a spice container, and you just like put it on your head as if you had a salt shaker, and then it makes your hair fluffy. You can use it on long hair as well. I think that's what it's originally meant for as well. But yeah, I guess it works like a mousse, but better. Mousse never really worked for me. Honestly, when I had long hair, I could never really do anything to it that had any sort of lasting effect. It just, it was just too heavy. I'm a bit bothered by how dark everything is, and I'm wondering if I can like do something about that somehow. Um, so that should be the webcam. Can I like, oh yeah, I should be able to adjust stuff here. That doesn't look good. We need some more contrast. Contrast! Ooh! I'm gonna be so contrasted. Now this doesn't look good either. I, hmm, 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 hmm. I'm not sure what this does, and I'm also not sure if I like it. I do like it. I think it's better, but I do think we need to take some contrast back out. And then maybe, yeah! Now that one good, and this doesn't look good either, but maybe a bit more saturation and a bit less of this. And what is this? What does this do? Verstärkung. It doesn't do anything. I'm sliding a slider and it's not doing anything. I think. Hey! Congrats! Hey, David! Good job on C1. Good job. That's high. Been a long time coming, huh? Honestly, ich bin beeindruckt, dass du so lange dran geblieben bist. Weil beim Sprachelernen kommt immer was dazwischen. Vor allem, wenn man es einfach als Hobby macht. Your natural hair color looks superb. Well, thank you. Um, we call it Straßenköterblond. um, um, what do you call it? Street dog blonde, like a dirty blonde. I'm blanking on the. I know there's a similar term for it in English, but I'm blanking what it is. Um, I am still getting used to how long the hair in the back is, because it is very mullety. It's a bit longer than I would like it to be currently, and I'm still making up my mind about whether I wanted to keep growing out or cut it a bit again. Because I feel like this looked best. Like I've been in this state for a while now, and I do want to say like I like the look. I gotta get um quick quick jump to the door. A cat is yelling. Hi, you coming in? Yeah. Ugh. Right, that's an update because last year these two babies were much smaller. So this is Pepper in her current state, and now she doesn't know what to do. Ow. Except leave. Okay, bye. What do you want? Okay, as long as she's in here, she's gonna yell at me intermittently. Uh, you started watching my videos in 2010? That can't be. I started making videos in 2013, but I'm gonna assume that it was close to then. Um, except if you like watched some of my super obscure old videos on a different channel, which I don't think, because I think about 20 people knew about that one. Hold on. My lipstick? No, my lipstick's fine. Yeah, she's a she. We got two girls in this house. Well, three girls. Three girls. Ugh. Peppy, you need to make up your mind where you're gonna go. If you're not gonna stay here, because I can't have you distracting me the whole time. Yeah, Peppy. Yeah, I call her Peppy, because it's Pepper. Also, sometimes I call her Pepita. Hi. And of course, a bunch of other names, as everybody does when they have pets. Hi, girly girl. Yes, Loof. And I've trained her to blink at me when I say I love you, which is the cutest thing ever. Uh, your job interview, I assume, William. You seem under some time constraints, so I appreciate that you're checking in all the more. That's really sweet. Hi, from Grain. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Nice to see you. Hi, Mahmoud. There's still new people coming in. Damn. Girly, I'm streaming. You need to do something else. Um, she will come up and like put her feet on my leg and look up at me like. And I'm never sure what she wants. I think it's just attention. I'm sure you did like my long hair. That's fine. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too, Daniel. Got a scoot already. Okay, well, thanks for checking in. Bye bye. Three koszki. Nie. I was saying three girls because I'm also here. You know? No. Two cats, two kitties, two little sisters. One's fluffy, one's not. And last year, yeah, for last year's stream, they had been here for 2 months, so they were at just shy of 6 months, like age-wise. So yeah, they're young adults now. So now what do we wanna talk about? You guys like tell me stuff that's happened to you, stuff that's on your mind, or we can play a game. I was gonna say I could like draw something, but I'm on a new PC, so not everything is already set up uh, mm, the way I would like it to be. Yeah, yeah. I think two cats is definitely a good thing. I think, I mean, three is manageable, isn't it? I feel like it probably doesn't make that much of a difference, but I'm happy with two. I'm happy with two. Uy, uy, uy. Katia, siempre adorado tu energía positiva y relajada. Well, thank you so much. I understood that. I can't reply in Spanish, but thank you. Um, are you a teacher yet? Oh, I love that question because it's ah, whether it's serious or not, that definitely was a thing that was a long time coming, wasn't it? Yes, I have been a teacher for, well, since I put this on hiatus, technically. Pepper, shut up. What do you want? I'm gonna start ignoring you if you just yell at me. Yeah, I love you. Yeah. So yeah, I've been so like a full-fledged teacher for a year and a half now, which means full-fledged in the sense of like I'm fully done. I've been teaching in school for twice as long, namely since I made my goodbye stream at the beginning of 2023, um, because I think I talked about this extensively at the time, but you have to, in Germany, when you're done with uni, you then go into 18 months of in-school training. So that's like the practical part of becoming a teacher, which is definitely very necessary. But the way it is done here has a lot of issues. I think it's one of the stupidest things ever. It has existed pretty much unchanged in its larger structural um, configuration since the late 1800s, meaning it's a very Prussian um, system or institution, and therefore kind of paramilitaristic. It's very dumb. So basically, you leave uni, you're done, right? You have a master's degree or something that is on the same level as a master's degree, and then for 18 months, you are essentially a private in the military. Like you're the basicest of the basics. And people would disagree with this and think it's a bit overly dramatic. And the thing is, I didn't even have that many negative experiences while I was in my referendariat, which is what that's called. So the 18 months of in-school training. But I'm just very generally opposed to the entire system of it because it's extremely hierarchical. It's built to put you under immense amounts of completely unnecessary pressure that do not make you better at your job. They just make you stressed. So basically, it's 18 months of finding out if people are able to withstand systematic, intentional pressure for the sake of and selling it as well, we have to find out if you're fit to teach. And all that while simultaneously telling you that you need to, that all of the things that are happening during those 18 months are what you don't do to students. And that somehow works parallel. And of course, nobody is like, don't do anything of the stuff that we're doing to you. It's this gaslighting structure of like, yeah, no, this is all, we're all, on the same level. You could talk to us. And to be fair, I think the individual people in the system, a lot of them, certainly most if not everyone of who I dealt with, tried their best. But there's limits to how you can be on one level and um, have good communication and healthy um, teaching people. I'm not sure how to even phrase that. When you're in this sort of institutional structure. Anyway, um, it's not an internship. An internship makes it sound like the things that we associate with the word internship don't really hit the core of what it is. You are basically, it's kind of like an apprenticeship in that you come in and you have days on which you are at, not school, but like you're at a seminar where you're like learning the theoretical stuff behind how to teach, how to stand in front of a class, how to manage a classroom, what is integral in teaching English in fifth grade, like that sort of stuff. And then you are just in a school a lot, and you teach, and you teach, and you talk to people, and you learn how the school works, that one specific school. Ähm, ja. Haben deine Schüler schon deinen Kanal entdeckt? I keep waiting for that. I think so far they haven't. I've actually gotten a bit more loosey-goosey with telling colleagues about it. I haven't directly told any students yet. I'm also still not sure how I would feel about some of them finding the channel. I'd be largely fine with it. And as I said, I'm a bit surprised nobody's found it yet. But I've also been surprised to find out that a lot of, especially like a lot of students, um, are losing or never building the skills to Google, like to use a search engine instead of just using AI. So maybe it's that. Maybe nobody's successfully Googled my name. I don't know. Um, Wegen deutscher Bürokratie studiere ich nicht in Deutschland. That's very understandable. To be fair, I'm never sure how it compares to other countries because I know German bureaucracy is kind of a meme that especially Germans like to keep alive. I found Russian bureaucracy to be even worse, but I'm still not sure if that was because of how bad German versus Russian bureaucracy is, or because I was a foreign student in Russia, whereas I'm a citizen in Germany. So those are two very different states of being, right? So but yeah, bureaucracy always sucks, and I can agree that it it's not fun in Germany, and it could be a lot easier and better. Michael had a oh, Michael, you were going to ask a German culture question, and then I think you didn't, did you? Äh, Wie würde man es denn besser machen? Oh, that's a really good question. How could you make the Referendariat better? Well, for one, I think it would be a hell of a lot better to, instead of having teachers just have a normal course of studies in university, like people who are studying the same subject but not to become a teacher, that becoming a teacher would actually entail a different course of studies, um, in a sort of, I don't know how you would call this in English. Um, in German, you call it duales Studium, like a dual system, which just means while you're doing uni, you're also already working. So this is something, of course, that you can set up when you're studying to be a teacher, to find like a substitute teaching job while you're going to uni. But the downside of that, of course, is that you're not going to be accommodated. So you're going to have to like work around uni and make sure that that's a workload that you can deal with, etc. So that would definitely be one way to maybe even make the Referendariat entirely unnecessary, because you could put all the stuff that you're being tested on in the course of those 18 months just into studying at uni, right? You could just have student teachers and then have those examinations that have been part of the Referendariat forever and ever. Um, Integrate those into university studies. That would be one way. Another way would also be to have a lot more, and this is something that a lot of examiners, from what I heard them saying, in some conversations I had, that a lot of people who have to, grade um, future teachers in this whole referendariat thing, would definitely support is that you would get a lot more opportunities to get visits that are just there for feedback, that have absolutely no bearing on grades that you're gonna get. It's also debatable whether you need a grade at all and whether we need to um, employ teachers based on their grade that they get during those 18 months, during which time you have like three big grades that actually count for anything. And as with any system in which you get grades for anything, if you're just having an off day or somebody examining you who just doesn't like the cut of your jib, then that grade that's supposed to represent your skill as a teacher really doesn't do that. So sorry, this is a very convoluted way of um, making my point, but I think the biggest thing, like I said, would be to try and integrate that apprenticeship aspect of becoming a teacher, which, by the way, that I fundamentally agree with. You can't make people teachers after just going to uni, which is something that a lot of most, if not all, people studying to be teachers at university constantly complain about, that you're sitting there studying your subject in depth, which is great. Nobody wants to not do that, or I'm sure there are people, but whatever. But the question on your mind is, what the fuck do I do if I have a bunch of eighth graders who are just like going berserk? And if you ask that question, the usual answer from people at university is, well, that's just something that comes with experience. And that immediately leads to any sound-minded university student thinking like, well, then shouldn't I start collecting experience? So yeah, in my opinion, that would already solve a lot of issues. And then I think a lot of the basic structures of the referendariat as it exists should be dissolved, um, because no matter how many details they change back and forth and make supposedly more adhere more to the modern standard of how we understand learning and teaching, if you keep the basic structure of like you have 3 to 4 people who are in complete charge and power over what your prospects for your future job look like, if as long as you uphold that, you can't dissolve this very militaristic structure. So taking out the hierarchy in some way, thinking about how necessary the grading system is, which is something that could be reflected upon in general when it comes to school. Okay, let me catch up on a few comments. Um, I have a lot of thoughts, as you could tell. So I'm sorry to anybody who's bored by this, but I do have a lot of thoughts on this. I actually also, I going to this congress, I had all the more reason to think about the stuff. I listened to a talk on a different way to do school, which was very inspiring. So, you know. In the UK, we say sir or madam as a sign of courtesy. Do Germans have a similar form of courtesy? Not in the same way, in the sense of that you can use the honorific as a replacement for a name. So you can't just say um, danke, Herr. But we do use honorifics or titles, I guess, as in Mr., Miss, Ms., Mrs., right? So, hallo Frau Müller, wie geht es Ihnen? But you can't just say, Entschuldigung, Frau, kann ich vorbei? That sounds weird. You could say junge Frau, young lady, but that works like young lady. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of a phrase more than it is the same as saying sir or madam. Um, it just saying Entschuldigung, Frau, kann ich vorbei sounds like saying sorry, girl, can I pass? And even saying sorry, girl is more idiomatic in English than it would be in German. But I guess that fits because you could say hey Mädchen, but that's very disrespectful. So we don't actually have an actual uh, parallel term or terminology in that specific usage. Okay, the rest is just a conversation in chat. Okay, well, I'm so glad as many people as there are here today. Hold on, isn't my stream stuck? No, it's still here. Good, good. I can just keep talking then. Now, you know what? I'm gonna check my subscription box on YouTube to see if there's anything that I think we might watch together and react to. Because that's the meta. That's the meta. Reacting to stuff. Or, of course, if you have other stuff to bring up, be happy to. I think I need to close the door. The stupid hallway is so cold. It's so cold, man. It snowed. It snowed last night. I think pretty much everywhere. Definitely in different parts of Germany. So yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, it's going to stay cold for quite a while. Ich werde Asmongold hoffentlich nicht. There are so many reasons I will not ever be Asmongold. I think if I do, I should definitely stop streaming. I could also, once again, I could either watch something or play a game. Now, of course, it's better to have stuff already lined up. But I don't, because I didn't know what was going to happen today. I mean, I could also just talk about stuff. Mädchen sounds like an evil punk group. Well, there might be something. There might be a band called that already. Who knows? No, I don't really have plans to return to YouTube. I've been kind of feeling that out every now and then, because I left that open and I'm still leaving it open because, people change, moods change. Moskvе minus 6. Well, that's not that much. So Maxime asked about whether I might have plans to return to making content. As of now, no. I think about it every now and then, and I always come to the conclusion that I'm not feeling the drive. I'm not feeling driven to do that. Part of it is being tired from being a full-time teacher, but that's not the largest part. I think it's just the desire doesn't emerge. I think it might have to do with the fact that like on the daily I I'm very exposed on a daily basis, right? Um, you're on a stage as a teacher, and I'm not complaining about that. I that's part of the job, and I also enjoy that part of the job most of the time. I think you kind of have to, because otherwise you're gonna get very grumpy very quickly. Or you have to find different ways to like conduct your lessons. Hmm. But I think teaching kind of takes the desire for that out of me for the rest of my life, largely. Like it's not that thing of like, oh, I want to share my knowledge. I want to share my what I have to say. That's definitely still there, but obviously that's what I do all day, right? That's what I do as part of my job. Um, and so I think that that need or that yeah, that need is being met, purely selfishly talking. Which I find kind of regrettable because in a different part of my mind, there's still a desire to finish what I started. Um, the so at the very least, like making a comprehensive, full guide to German grammar. Um, but yeah, I agree with Jonathan and Mujan. It's the internet has also become a place where I don't feel as incentivized to participate anymore. I I used to be a lot more actively online than I am now, and I think that's true for a lot of people, isn't it? The internet used to be an extremely social place in a way. It could also be very antisocial in the sense of like, the behavior that people showed online wasn't necessarily very society ready, but there was some sort of interacting at every turn. Ironically enough, like the more like back in the day when there were so many different websites and so many different like forums and there were maybe a few different websites that were very popular and that everybody knew about, but it was never going to be everybody. And that made everything more connected in a weird way. Um, you had your little communities, and now everything's on a couple different websites that call themselves social networks, but really it's just a collection of everybody who's online and wants to like connect because you feel like you need to be on Instagram to stay connected, right? I've talked about this in the past. Like it's always bothered me that in order to like run a YouTube channel at some point, I felt like I had to now get a Twitter, I had to get an Instagram, and I had to get a TikTok account, which that was really the last straw. I set that up, I uploaded like 10 clips, if that, and then I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Fuck that. No, I'm done. I don't want to do this. Because I never did. All I ever wanted was to upload YouTube videos, and there came a turning point where that just wasn't enough anymore. Um, I had to have the Facebook, had to have the Reddit. Uh, and don't get me wrong, like I think there's still a lot of cool stuff on YouTube, and there's also still cool new stuff on YouTube, right? But it's just everything's bloated. These 5 websites are just so incredibly overloaded with people, with content, with non-tent, like with dumb stuff that nobody wants to see, but is just being put out there incessantly. Um, Unfortunately, I we have to include learning content in this. Um, so yeah, and then on top of that, like the environment in which you put out your stuff, um, there's also that other added factor of like, yeah, but are people even gonna see it? Because even you guys, right? Even the like loyal subscribers might not even see what I upload because it's because algorithms. And let's face it, you know, I'm here once a year. It, so the algorithm, I'm dead and buried. Like this is not happen. This channel isn't happening. So yeah, but even beyond that, right? Because I have a full-time job. I I I'm definitely no longer under the pressure of this like having to make money. I mean, it's always nice to get more money, but um, it's different from when this was my only source of income, right? I've actually been thinking about like going back through my videos and cutting out sponsorships because you know it's been years. It's been years. They're not getting any traffic off of me anymore, and it's just annoying to anybody who watches the videos. But it would also be annoying to do all that work. Um, but ideally, I would like to have it be like if I do return to make content, ideally, I would like it to be fully free, fully um, just based on voluntary contributions as through Patreon or whatever. But the issue with that again is because this is a thought that I had back when I was still semi-active. Um, if you turn off ads for your channel, that's going to be an instant demotion in visibility, unfortunately. That's also not me being conspiratorial. That's legitimately just what it is. Of course, because the two main things that need to happen on YouTube is you stay on the website for as long as you can, or not as long as you can. You stay on the website for as long as it can keep you, and during that time, you generate as much ad income as possible. So if your channel isn't contributing to those things, it's just not interesting to the algorithm. So yeah, and even that's just that way of like thinking is a very new age internet way of thinking, and it's a lot. And just from I think this is a personality thing, right? I'm I don't know how to like properly subsumize it, but maybe we can put it under if I do something, I want to do it right. So I'm very bad at not thinking about these sorts of parameters, even when I don't want to think about them. Oh God, David, I love that. I love your creativity, but I just reading that makes me want to have a less happy reaction. See, that's the other. So I think I talked about this. I feel like I end up talking about this every year. So just to make it really, really short, you can focus on visibility or what do you want to say? Well, you could term it different things, right? You can either focus on visibility slash reach slash monetization slash profitability, so that business side of things, or you can focus on really just doing what you want to do, and that's like just that. And there's a few of like a tiny percentage of people who get to have both, because they just have content that is so extremely special and unique and entertaining and la la la, just hits the mark of the audience that they attract from it, with that so incredibly well and uniquely that no matter how long I don't know. I'm thinking of such extreme examples of H bomber guy, right? You don't upload a video for 2 years. You upload another one. It immediately rises to like 2 million views, and you're able to make a living just doing that with no sponsorships, with no compromises for the content you make, and you can make a great living off of just doing that. Those people exist, and I'm so happy they exist. But that's not the reality of making content, right? So those are the two ways you could go. You can either be happy with what you make, like really happy with what you make, use your emotional energy in ways that are fulfilling in some way, or you can do it in a way that is business wise, like business savvy. And sometimes they go together. Sometimes the Venn diagram isn't perfectly a circle, but like overlaps enough. And sometimes you got to decide for one or the other. And I think that's where a lot of people like break. Um, and I kind of hate that that's the reality, but I think that's the price that we pay for monetization. That's the price that we are now paying after almost 16 years of money on YouTube, which has brought a lot of good things, right? Like the golden age definitely came as part of that. If you don't want to count the first 3 years as the golden age, whatever. But yeah, it's a commodity. Social media has become a commodity, has become a um, um, has become a part of our reality that is not it's not special. It's just it's there. We expect it to exist, and we still are under that illusion that anybody can make money from it, which is also no longer true. Yeah, there is an exact split. Google always takes 45% of the money that you make on ad revenue. So it's not exactly true that Google gets more from an individual's ads, but of course, Google gets more than any individual creator because it gets 45% from every single creator. Um, yeah, I think I've run myself dry. I think like none of this is probably we're all aware of all of this, aren't we? The enshittification of the internet is fully has fully happened. You know what? I watched a talk on this at C3, uh, that was called a post-American enshittification resistant internet. Um, I want to watch that. I want to watch that with you because um, it actually fits the topic we were talking about. And yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait, I think this is the channel of the person who actually gave the talk. So let's just watch this one. It's an hour long. I don't know if we're going to watch the whole thing. It's a talk in English by an American professor. I think he's in, no, what does he do? I didn't know about this person before. Cory Doctorow is his name. I forget what he does. I think he introduced himself at the beginning. Right. So, give me a minute. I still think it would be cool to see you streaming a live D&D game in German. I, yeah, might be cool. I think I'm way too wonky on the rules to make that satisfactory. Yeah, I have never played World of Warcraft, Michael. I used to play Heroes of the Storm for a while, which is another Blizzard title. I also play Hearthstone, uh, kind of semi-regularly, although I usually just play the auto chess mode, Battlegrounds. Gotta run. Okay, Kim Beauregard, thank you so much for checking in. Yeah, I, yeah, always happy to read your name. And same to you, David. Bye bye. So, um, so Cory Doctorow gave a talk at C3, so the Congress, the Hacker Congress that I was at in December. So that happened on December 28th. It was a pretty big talk. Hold on. So I think it's, yeah, there we go. So if I make this full screen, does that still work? It does. I hope you can see enough. So, the talk was called "A Post-American Intrusification-Resistant Internet," which is based on one of the dumb trade agreements slash gosh, what are they called? Tariff stuff. The dumb things Trump keeps doing, right? The putting the kibosh on a lot of previously established trade agreements. He's going to explain that. I hope it's interesting to you. I thought it was really interesting, and it's super relevant to talking about how shitty the internet has gotten. So let's check it out. It's an hour long. Let's see how long we last. I think you can hear, yeah? It's a bit too loud on my ears though.
Thank you. Hey, wow, look at that. Hi. Hello. Thank you very much. Hi. The joke about the podium here is that this was the only non-USB-C compatible podium they could find for me. So as many of you know, I'm an activist with the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Next month, I start my 25th year there. And I know I'm hardly unbiased, but as far as I'm concerned, there is no group anywhere on Earth that does the work of the caliber that EFF does for our digital rights. And I'm an activist there, and so for the past quarter of a century, my job has been fighting something that I call the war on general purpose computing. Now, if you were at 28C3 14 years ago, you may have heard me give a talk with that title. Those are the trenches I have been in with EFF since my very first day on the job. That was a day when I flew to Los Angeles and crashed the inaugural meeting of something called the Broadcast Protection Discussion Group. This was an unholy alliance of tech companies, media companies, broadcasters, and cable operators, and they'd gathered at the invitation of this lavishly corrupt American congressman, a man called Billy Tozin, who had promised them a new regulation, a rule that would ban the manufacture and sale of digital computers unless they had been damaged to specifications set by that group, specifications for technical measures to block the execution of code that their shareholders did not want to see executed.
Okay, that was a very long sentence. I just wanted to this is too this amount of American lore is a bit too deep for me, at least at that point in history. But I just wanted to add, it doesn't just stop at the internet, right? So with him mentioning this issue of what did he say? War on general computing. What's included in this is the fact that something that personally bothers me so much is that I cannot run a Windows operating system on my home computer anymore without constantly being bombarded with whatever Microsoft or Bing deems shareable or important for me on some sort of basis on my desktop, my home base. Like, I'm not on the internet. I'm just trying to be on my computer. I don't want your information on world news or the stock market. You can turn that off, of course, right? You can turn the widgets off, etc. And I do. But even just the fact that that is a thing irks me, not so much because there's of course that resistance to the resistance to change in there, but to me this is another symptom of this entire, it's my computer, right? And even there I am not free from this mega corporation grabbing at my personal information that it somehow extracts, right? And that in order to suggest the ideal article for me, while I'm trying to do stuff on my computer, not trying to be online, this constant colonization of my um, attention and mental energy that's going on everywhere. So that's definitely also a part of it. Somebody came in and somebody's leaving. Hi, so Zelax is going, so I'll address you first. Yeah, well, thank you. And bye bye. Thanks for checking in. And Antonio came in mucho tiempo sin verte. Espero que tengas un excelente inicio de año. Saludos desde México. I understood that. I think, except for sin verte, I don't know what that is. But yeah, I had a nice start of the year. I hope you did too. Thank you. So far, it's been relatively quiet. Go back to school in 2 days, so that's when the stress picks back up. But so far, yeah, it's just my uh sleeping my day night cycle is completely off.
In the
But that's
wild. Now, that rule was
normal.
called the broadcast flag, and it actually did pass through the American regulatory system. The Federal Communications Commission passed it as a rule, so we sued the FCC. We overturned the rule. So, thank you. Yeah, it was a good day. So, we won that skirmish, but my friends, I have very bad news, although it's not news that will surprise you. Despite wins like that important one, we have been losing the war on general purpose computers for the past 25 years. But that's why I've come to Hamburg today, because after decades of throwing myself against a locked door, the door that leads to a new, good internet, one that delivers the technological self-determination of the old, good internet, and the ease of use of Web 2.0 that let our normie friends come and join the party, that door has been unlocked. Today, it is open a crack. I mean, it's open a crack.
Yay!
And here's the weirdest part. The guy who unlocked that door is Donald Trump. Now, he didn't do it on purpose, but thanks to Trump's
Of course you did.
incontinent belligerence, we are on the cusp of the post-American internet.
Will you ever be reposting those cool stories that you did in German? I don't think I will, because the reason I took those off, or well, they're privated, but that I took those offline for all intents and purposes, is because I'm uncomfortable with my students at some point finding stories from that are actually stories from my life and just widely available on the internet. I think that goes a step too far beyond what I find professional in the student teacher context. Not because all of them are stories that I definitely wouldn't tell to students, but and I also already pre-selected those stories at the time for what I thought might be fine to present to students, or if they came across it. But I've always had a somewhat irksome relationship with the thought of people who I actually interact with in real life knowing stories about me that I never told them. So that's the biggest reason. Uh, or didn't tell them in personal conversation if you want to get technical about it. And I do think that there's a lot of people who unfortunately cannot, and for teenagers, I don't even want to like put blame on them for this, that cannot differentiate between, you would get an intersection basically of an actual relationship and a parasocial relationship at worst. And that's just something I don't want to navigate as a teacher. That would be a little bit too awkward for me. And it might happen at some point when I'm so far removed from those stories, age-wise, person-wise, right? When the molting process has happened enough times that I consider myself so far removed from that it doesn't really even bother me anymore. But that's going to be a while. So as much as I regret it, I considered, I think right now I have them available for channel members, but I made the channel membership very expensive because I don't I want to avoid a student just for the fun of it, buying a channel membership just to be able to watch those videos and like share them around, you know. Yeah, yeah, and I'm so happy to hear you found them helpful. I think that sentiment is shared by a lot of people, and I enjoyed making them. And I also don't have like I'm not embarrassed about the videos, but like I said, the issue lies elsewhere, and I haven't really found a good solution for that. Um, some people argue that to get back to the talk, do you have something illegal? Yeah, 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 yeah. That's always the like, I don't have anything to hide. Okay, that's great. That's great, but that's not the point. That's really not the point. And not even the thing that I tend to bring up as an argument that has become more relevant than it ever was when I first started making it. But not even that is the most relevant point, that being that if your government ever turns any sort of totalitarian, they now have a lot of stuff at the, you know, that they can just subpoena basically from any big corporation that they're probably already collaborating with anyway, because money, especially in the US. So that's actually relevant nowadays. But even if it weren't, like privacy is not a matter of whether you need it or not. It should be a given. Whatever. Let's continue.
A new digital nervous system for the 21st century. An internet that we can build together without worrying about America's demands or its priorities. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not happy about Trump or his policies. But as my friend Joey Davila likes to say, when life gives you SARS, you make sarsaparilla. The only
I'm
thing
not
worse
saying
than
that
living
it
through
can't
all
be
the
worse.
terror that Trump has unleashed on America and the world would be going through all of that and not salvaging anything of value from it. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. The post-American internet that we can wrestle away from Trump's chaos. The post-American internet that is possible because Trump has mobilized new coalition partners to fight on our side. Now, in politics, coalitions are everything. Anytime you see a group of people.
By the way, I love these. He has made these photo manipulations or photo collages for um the entirety of the talk, and I think they're just great. They're great pop art to illustrate this. Yeah, I think they're just uh very nicely set up. Um, Nice to see you. I just started watching your channel last month. My German progress has skyrocketed. Hey, I'm so glad to hear that. Great. Welcome.
Suddenly make a breakthrough in making a change that they failed to make for years and years, it's a sure bet that they have found coalition partners.
This as well. I'm sorry. Like I'm not. This isn't a dig against electric cars. It isn't at all. So I don't. I'm just saying that up top in order to not be misunderstood. But this whole bullshit of like your entire car runs through a stupid iPad that if the iPad breaks, you're fucked. Like again, I don't want my car to be software based. I don't need it. I don't want it. Yes, of course, there's also already software in blah, blah, if you have some sort of like board computer, as we say. I don't even know if that's also what it's called in English. But like, I don't want to start my car through an iPad. Call me old fashioned. I don't know. Oh,
Allies who don't want all the same things that they want, but want enough of the same things to fight on their side. And that's where Trump came from. He's at the front of a coalition of billionaires, white nationalists, Christian bigots, authoritarians, conspiratorialists, imperialists, and of course self-described libertarians who've got such a scorching case of low-tax
yeah, for sure.
brainworms that they'd
Absolutely, it
vote for
is.
Mussolini if he'd take 5 cents off their tax bill. And that's what's got me, yeah.
They vote for Mussolini if you take 5 cents off their tax bill. I mean, they already did, right?
And that's what's got me so excited, is that we've got a new coalition in the war on general purpose computers. A coalition that includes digital rights activists who've been on the lines for decades, but also now people who want to turn America's tech trillions into billions for their own economy, and national security hawks who are quite rightly worried about digital sovereignty. Now, my thesis here is that this is an unstoppable coalition, which is good news, because for the first time in decades, I think victory is in our grasp. So let me explain. 14 years ago, I stood in front of this group and I talked about the war on general purpose computing. Now that's my snappy name for the fight, but the boring name that they use in legislatures for this fight is something called anti-circumvention law. Under anti-circumvention law, it is a crime to alter the functioning of a digital product or service unless the manufacturer approves of your modification.
This is basically the whole. I don't remember. I don't know if anybody remembers the big. I feel like it's gotten less prevalent, but I remember in the semi-early years of iPhones existing or iPods even, jailbreaking was very common, right? Like breaking the back end of your Apple device in order to be able to install different programs on it, get access to yeah, it's largely just to get access to stuff that Apple didn't give you access to. And of course, the moment that you did that, any sort of warranty that you had on that device ran out. That's basically what this is. And he's gonna ChatGPT recommended you to me. Well, I'm glad it's good for something. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, anti-circumvention. He's gonna bring up some wild examples if I remember correctly. Or not. The thing is not that wild in the sense of like, oh, I could have never thought of that, but like if you think about it for a second, it's crazy that that's what's normal.
And crucially, this
keep
is
that
true
in mind.
whether or not your modification violates any other law. Anti-circumvention law, it originates in the USA with Section 1201 of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act of 1998, which establishes a felony punishable by a 5-year prison sentence and a $500,000 fine for a first offense for bypassing an access control to a copyrighted work. So practically speaking, if you design a service or device with even the flimsiest of systems to prevent modification of its application code or its firmware, it is a felony. It is a jailable felony to modify that code or that firmware.
So, like, no matter how shitty it is, if you're basically stating the intent for your device to not be open source, basically, then trying to like do anything that you didn't put like intentionally make an option is breaking a law in the US. This is fucking insane.
It's also a felony
It's not. I
to
mean,
disclose
we're used to
information
it,
about
right? But
how
it's
to
technically
bypass the
it's so.
access control, which means that pen testers who even describe how they access a device or a system face criminal liability. And so anti-circumvention law allows any manufacturer to trivially turn their product into a no-go zone, criminalizing the act of investigating its defects, criminalizing the act of disclosing its defects, and criminalizing the act of remediating its defects. This is a law that Jay Freeman quite rightly calls felony contempt of business model. Now, anti-circumvention law became the law of the land in America in 1998 when Bill Clinton signed the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. But before you start snickering at those stupid Americans, I want you to know this. Every other country in the world has passed a law just like this one in the years since. Now, here in the EU, we got it through Article 6 of the Copyright Directive in 2001. Now, it makes a certain kind of twisted sense for America to enact a law like this. After all, they are the world's tech powerhouse, home to the biggest, most powerful tech companies in the world.
You.
By making it illegal to modify digital products without the manufacturer's permission, America enhances the rent-extracting power of the most valuable companies on its stock exchanges. But why would Europe pass a law like this? After all, Europe is a massive tech importer. By extending legal protections to tech companies that want to steal European users' data and money, the EU facilitates a one-way transfer of value from Europe to America. So why would Europe do this? Well, let me tell you about the circumstances under which all the other countries came to enact their anti-circumvention laws, and maybe you'll spot a pattern that answers the question. Australia got its anti-circumvention law through the US-Australia Free Trade Agreement, which obliges Australia to enact anti-circumvention law. Mexico and Canada got their anti-circumvention law through the US-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement, which obliges...
I mean, this is going to come down to the US is so powerful and rich that the even just because of the implication, right? So even just the implication that like, well, if you don't accept this law that we have as your law, then we're not going to trade with you. And so that's how you press legislation onto others with enough power. That also always being, I mean, not really, but again, implied the military power that's behind the US, right?
Obliges Canada and Mexico to enact anti-circumvention laws. Andean nations like Chile got their anti-circumvention laws through US bilateral free trade agreements, which obliged them to enact anti-circumvention laws. And the Central American nations got their anti-circumvention laws through CAFTA, the Central American Free Trade Agreement with the USA, which obliges them to enact anti-circumvention laws. Now, I assume you spotted the pattern by now. The US trade representative has forced every one of America's trading partners to enact an anti-circumvention law to facilitate the extraction of their own people's data and money by American tech firms.
So just to be clear, right? So the US probably under the guise of like, well, we have these rules for anything produced in the US that if there is any sort of technically exploitable technology involved in something, you cannot exploit it under the or disable it or even like break it in any sort of way, look into it under the threat of legal consequences. So if we want to trade with you, then you're going to have to accept those laws as well, because otherwise those laws essentially become meaningless. I mean, there's a certain logic to it, right? To be charitable. But in order for that to work, you have to also be able to extract data. So basically, what then the countries that the US is dealing with is signing away are the rights to certain amounts of privacy for all citizens, because no individual citizen can opt out of dealing with the US. This is what has been gradually big, but this is why we've had so many like privacy and data scandals since, I don't know, late 2000s. None of which were actually that surprising, but of course this is not something that, I mean, we're kind of wising up to this more and more and more, right? But I remember when this whole thing of like, oh, when Snowden leaked the information he leaked, he had to flee the country because it was that big of a deal to leak that information, right? To make public the amount of espionage that the US had been enacting under the guise of trade and peace agreements. Because being safe is more important than being, what was it? Safety is more important than privacy, something like that.
But of course, this only raises a further question. Why would every other country in the world agree to let America steal its people's money and data and block its domestic tech sector from making interoperable products that prevents this theft? Well, here's an anecdote that might unravel the riddle. Many years ago, in the years before Viktor Orban took over Hungary, I used to guest lecture at a PhD program in political science at the Central European University in Budapest. And one summer, after I'd lectured to my students on anti-circumvention law, one of them approached me. Now, they had been the information minister of a Central American country during the CAFTA negotiations. And one day, they'd received a call from the trade negotiator, calling from the CAFTA trade negotiating room. And the negotiator said, "You know how you told me not to give the Americans anti-circumvention law under any circumstances? Well, they've told me they will not take our coffee unless we give them anti-circumvention. And I'm sorry, we just can't lose the US coffee market. Our economy could collapse, so we're going to get anti-circumvention. I'm really sorry." That's it. That's why every government in the world allowed US big tech companies to declare open season on their own people's private data and ready cash. The alternative was tariffs. Well, I don't know if you've heard, but we have tariffs now.
Yay!
I mean, if someone threatens to burn your house down unless you follow their orders and they burn your house down anyway, you don't have to keep following their orders.
Exactly. Question is if governments are going to
So,
care
happy
at this
Liberation
point.
Day? So far, every country in the world has come up with one of two responses to the Trump tariffs. The first one is give Trump everything he asks for except Greenland and hope he stops being mad at you. And this has been an absolute failure. Give Trump an inch, he'll take a mile, he'll take fucking Greenland. Capitulation has been a failure. But so has been the other tactic, the retaliatory tariff. Now, that's what we have done in Canada. Like all the best Americans, I am Canadian. And
Sorry, my bad for calling him American.
it's a cheap laugh. Our top move has been to levy tariffs on the stuff we import from America, making the things that we buy more expensive. Now, this is a very weird way to punish America. It is like punching yourself in the face as hard as you can and hoping the downstairs neighbor says, ouch. And worse, it's indiscriminate. Why whack some poor farmer in a state that begins and ends with a vowel with tariffs on his soybeans? That guy never did anything bad to Canada. But there is a third possible response to tariffs, one that is just sitting there begging to be tried. What about repealing anti-circumvention law? Now, if you're a technologist or an investor based in a country that repeals its anti-circumvention law, you can go into business making the disenshittificatory products that plug into America's defective tech exports and allow the people who own and use those products to use them in ways that are good for them, even if those ways are bad for the shareholders of the company that made the product. Think of John Deere tractors.
Because that would actually hurt all the people who are supporting Trump because he's helping them make more money, right? That's the other thing. All the fucking Zuckerbergs and I legitimately forgot Elon's last name, Musk's, and all those other assholes. Everything they did was motivated by making more money, right? I mean, it was probably very oversimplification. Is it though? No, I feel like I can say that as a peon little person in the world. That's all they're motivated by, right? So that would actually hit them where it hurts, and it would thereby hit Trump where it hurts. I think what I'm saying is this. I mean, he's being way more eloquent about this than me. He's got a good point.
When a farmer's John Deere tractor, thank you. There's going to be a lot more of that. When a farmer's John Deere tractor breaks down, they are expected to repair it, to swap in the new parts and assemblies to replace whatever's malfunctioning.
This is
But
just
that tractor will not recognize the new part and will not start working again, not until the farmer spends $200 on a service call-out from an official John Deere service rep whose only job is to type an unlock code into the tractor's console to initialize the part and pair it with the tractor's main computing unit. Modding a tractor to bypass this activation step violates anti-circumvention law, meaning farmers all over the world are stuck with.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that it's amazing that anybody voted for him. We also know that not enough people voted for him, really. So that's the other part of that, right?
This rip-off garbage because their own government will lock up anyone who makes a tractor mod that disables this parts pairing check in this American product.
So, sorry, just to recap, because we have that little break in there. This is one of the examples I meant earlier when I said this is actually kind of bad shit. I mean, it's not in the sense that it's surprising to anybody. It's just, it's par for the course, right? But if you think about it as like from the alien perspective, right? Somebody that is not used to how the world works under anti-circumvention laws. You have a machine, in this case a tractor, that works fine, then something breaks, you have to buy the part to replace it, which usually also already is more expensive because you're going to need to get an official part, right? And you need to fix it. I mean, you could also not fix it yourself, but that's just going to be more expensive. And then technically the tractor should work. The piece of machinery should work again. But it won't work until somebody from the company comes and doesn't fix it, doesn't do the job of fixing the machine. You already did that or had that done by somebody, but basically just comes in to authorize that. We have that in smaller versions with like you can only use the official cartridges for the printer, even though there's alternatives from no-name suppliers that cost a tenth of what those cost. But your printer is not going to recognize those no-name cartridges, so you either hack your printer somehow, voiding any sort of warranty you have on it, especially if it somehow breaks because you use the wrong cartridges, or you buy the super expensive, underfilled cartridges that are going to tell you they're empty even when they're not yet. So that's probably a more relatable example, but I think the tractor thing is also pretty interesting just because of the costs involved, right? Because you don't really have a choice. You could buy a new tractor, but that's more expensive. So you pay the dude to like do the official unlocking of the part that you already bought and put in the machine.
So what if Canada repealed Bill C-11, the Copyright Modernization Act of 2012? That's our anti-circumvention law. Well, then a company like Honeybee, a Canadian company that already makes tractor front ends and attachments, could hire some smart University of Waterloo computer science graduates. I'm a proud U of W dropout. And it could put them to work jailbreaking John Deere's defective tractor
Yep,
firmware,
exactly.
and then they could offer it to everyone in the world. They could sell that crack to anyone with an internet connection and a payment method, including that poor American farmer whose soybeans were currently tariffing. It is hard to convey just how much money is on the table here. I'm going to use just one example. Apple's App Store. Apple forces all app vendors into using its own payment processor and
I lost a few Patreon subscribers over this, and I can't blame them.
charges them a 30% commission on every euro spent inside of every app. 30%! That is such a profitable business that Apple is making $100 billion a year on it. Now,
Again, just to recap that, if there is an in-app purchase through an app that you bought in the App Store, so you're fucked if you're on an Apple device, is what that means. Apple gets 30% of the money that you spend. Now, of course, because the app doesn't, so there's two ways this can go. Either the app provider changes their pricing down so they get less money, but what usually happens is that that additional 30% is added onto the price for the consumer, which is what happened, for example, for Patreon. This isn't something that Patreon decided, although of course it was in their power technically to decide that they will not take that out, like will not charge extra from patrons, but instead will pay that from their end. But that would of course then amount to so much money over the entire platform that it might very well break your budget as a company slash app provider. So what then happened is that if you pledged euro to any sort of Patreon creator, if you were on Apple, you now pay €1.30 instead. There was no, and you can't do anything about. They can't do anything about it. The only thing you can do is buy another phone, which you probably should do anyway. But and this is the sort of stuff that you can do when so many people buy your shitty phone. Well, maybe not shitty. We don't have to argue about how shitty an iPhone is, but they're definitely overpriced and locked into a lot of Apple only
if the EU
stuff.
were to repeal Article 6 of the Copyright Directive, some smart geeks in Finland could.
Do you prefer tacos or burgers? I'd say generally burgers. Depends on. You can't really get good tacos here, though. I've had taco like proper like the like taquitos, the small ones in LA, and they're definitely that's a tough call. That's a tough call. Although I then, to be fair, would have to compare that to a really primo burger. So I'm still leaning burger, but I'm probably influenced by the fact that I just haven't had a lot of good tacos in my life.
Reverse engineer Apple's bootloaders and make a little hardware dongle that jailbreaks phones so that they can use alternative app stores, and they could sell that dongle along with the infrastructure to operate an app store to anyone in the world who wants to go into business competing with Apple for users and app vendors. Those competitors could offer a 90% discount to every crafter on Etsy, every performer on Patreon, every online news outlet, every game dev, every media store, offer them a 90% discount on payments, and still make $10 billion a year. Now, maybe Finland's never going to see another
But
Nokia.
that's not enough.
But Nokia, that's a hard business to be in. You've got to make hardware, and that's expensive and risky. But if the EU legalizes jailbreaking, then Apple has to incur the expense and the risk of making and fielding hardware, and those Finnish geeks get to cream off the $100 billion digital tax that Apple imposes on the world in an act of disgusting rip-off rent-seeking. As Jeff Bezos said to the publishers,
Didn't have a burger
your
in
margin
Hamburg,
is my opportunity.
I think.
Now, with these guys, it's always disruption for thee and never
I'm
for
sure
me.
there's good
When they do
hamburgers
it to
in
us,
Hamburg.
it's progress. If we do it back to them, it's piracy. And of course, every pirate wants to be an admiral. We do it always disruption for thee and never for me. When they do it to us, it's progress. If we do it back to them, it's piracy. And of course, every pirate wants to be an admiral. Well, screw that. Let's move fast and break Tim Cook's things. Let's move fast and break kings. Now, it's funny, I spent 25 years getting my ass kicked by the US Trade Representative, and in my defense, it wasn't a fair fight, but I did develop a kind of grudging respect for the skill with which the USTR had bound the entire world to a system of trade that conferred parochial advantage to America and its tech firms, giving them free rein to loot the world's data and economies. So it has been pretty amazing to watch Trump swiftly and decisively dismantle the global system of trade and destroy the case for the world, continuing to arrange its affairs to protect the interests of America's capital class. I mean, it's not a path I would have chosen. I'd have preferred no Trump at all to this breakthrough. But I'll take this massive own goal if Trump insists. I mean, I'm not saying I've become an accelerationist, but at this point, I'm not exactly not an accelerationist. I mean, is Trump a comrade? Now, you may have heard that governments around the world have been trying to get Apple to open up its app store, and this has been a complete failure. Here in the EU, when they hit Apple with enforcement under the Digital Markets Act, Apple's response was to say, sure, we'll allow third-party apps, but only allow them to sell the apps that we permit. And also, those stores can use their own payment processors, but we're going to charge so many junk fees if they do that it'll be more expensive than using our payment processor. And if we think an Apple user's phone has left the EU for 21 days, we'll delete all of its apps and data.
How is that? And that's part of what I mean with, like, I want my desktop. We're not even talking about smartphones, right? Because smartphones from I don't know, 2011 onward, 12 is just a guess, have never been in this state, right? But with desktop computers, for a long time, at the very least, it still felt like, I'm the king of the castle, right? With phones, the state has been not in effect for a long time. Smartphones, that is. But the thought that some corporation who I made a purchase from, a sizable purchase in the case of Apple, has we're not even talking about the right, because the right is a philosophical measure, right? The ability has built in an ability into their stupid hardware to be able to go in and delete my stuff is. What is this? By the way, I went to Japan. Oh yeah, I went to Japan for 2 weeks in October. And it just deleted WhatsApp. Something deleted WhatsApp. I mean, that's not the worst app to delete. But I noticed a few days in when I was like, where is that? Oh wait, no, it wasn't. Oh, that's not where it was. It wasn't in Japan. It was in Edinburgh. I went to the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh in the summer, and after like 2 or 3 days, I noticed my WhatsApp's gone. And I don't know. I didn't delete it. I don't know how that happened. Something deleted WhatsApp. It's weird. It shouldn't happen.
When the EU explained that this was not going to satisfy the DMA's terms, Apple threatened to pull out of the EU. And then, once everyone had finished laughing, Apple filed more than a dozen legal objections to this order, hoping to tie this up in court for a decade the way Google and Meta did with the GDPR. Now, it's not clear whether the EU can force Apple to write code to open up the iOS platform for alternative app stores and payment methods. But there is one thing that the EU can absolutely do with 100% reliability anytime it wants. The EU can decide not to allow Apple to use the EU's courts to shut down European companies that defend European merchants, performers, makers, news outlets, game devs, and creative workers from Apple's ripoff.
No, but that's my point, Michael. Exactly. Uh, and if the fact that it is legal, because just from retelling it, it sounds like it should self-evidently be illegal that you buy a piece of hardware that um, inextricably comes with a piece of software that you cannot decide on, right? You can't make that call. That then has a built-in um, um, agreement, yeah, license user agreement to just do this sort of stuff on your property because it is your property. And we're not even getting into the whole like everything is a subscription thing now because that's bullshit too. That's very much related to this. Adobe is another one of those companies for sure, for sure. Isn't Adobe now? Isn't there also a sort of like if you no, I'll be talking about stuff that I don't actually know enough about to talk about it if I do this. I was thinking of like they own part of what you create if you use certain services to, but I'm not sure enough about that to talk about it. But suffice it to say, Adobe, yeah, of course. The fact that Adobe made all of their very expensive programs subscription only, um, yeah, it's and the creative cloud in itself, like since it became after Creative Suite 6, right? That's when they introduced Creative Cloud, I think. That alone, the whole like owning software, what? No, and then hiding behind that whole like no, but you get updates, right? You get updates. Just think of you would have to buy the new version. No, you don't. Okay, but I could make that choice, and I think that's what it comes down to with a lot of these things. It's choices. If you want to make the choice to, for example, uh, use certain services that then require you to give away all your data, sure, but you don't have the choice. If you buy an iPhone, you're locked into all of the stupid agreements that Apple pushes on you. There is no such thing as an agreement. It's you agree the moment you buy a piece of hardware, and that's just wrong. It's just wrong. It shouldn't be reserved for people who really know the details of tech to live a life in which they are not selling their privacy the moment they use a piece of hardware that they need to have in today's day and age. Anyway, well, but computers, Windows, there isn't much choice nowadays. The thing is, you don't need much choice if there are good choices, right? I mean, yes, ideally you have multiple, yeah, but Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, one of these things is not like the others, is all I'm going to say. And same with iOS and Android. There's just a big difference between Android and iOS. You only need one that gives you enough other choices. Like it's not just the one choice. It's but with Apple and iOS, it's just the one choice because you're going to be bound to using Apple stuff and giving away all of your data that comes with it.
By legalizing jailbreaks. All the EU has to do All the EU has to do is repeal Article 6 of the Copyright Directive, and in so doing, strip Apple of the privilege of mobilizing the European justice system to shore up Apple's $100 billion annual tax on the world's digital economy. The EU company that figures out how to reliably break iPhones will have customers all over the world, including in the USA, where Apple doesn't just use its veto power over which apps can run on your phone to suck 30 cents out of every dollar you spend, but where Apple also uses its control over the platform to strip out apps that protect Apple's customers from Trump's fascist takeover. Back in October, Apple kicked an app called IceBlock out of the App Store. Now, this is an app that warns you if there's a snatch squad of masked ICE thugs nearby looking to grab you off the street and send you to a gulag. Apple internally classified ICE officers as a protected class and then declared that IceBlock infringed on the rights of those poor beset ICE goons. And speaking of ICE thugs, there are plenty of qualified technologists who fled the USA this year, one step ahead of an ICE platoon looking to put them and their children in a concentration camp. These skilled hackers are now living all over the world, joined by investors who would like to back a business whose success will be determined by how awesome its products are, not by how many Trump coins they buy. Apple's margin could be their opportunity. Legalizing jailbreaking, raiding the highest margin lines of business of the most profitable companies in America is a much better response to Trump tariffs than retaliatory tariffs. For one thing, it's a targeted response. Go after big tech's margins, and you're mounting a frontal assault on the businesses whose CEOs each paid $1 million out of their own pocket to sit behind Trump on the inauguration dais. Raiding big tech's margins, it's not an attack on the American people, nor on the small American businesses that are ripped off by big tech. It is a raid on the companies that screw everyday Americans and everyone else in the world. It's a way to make everyone in the world richer at the expense of these rip-off companies. It beats the
poor billionaire.
The shit. Thank you. Thank you.
Look at him.
It beats the shit out of blowing hundreds of billions of dollars building AI data centers in the hope that someday a sector that has lost nearly $1 trillion shipping defective chatbots will figure out a use for GPUs someday that doesn't start hemorrhaging money the minute they turn them on.
And hurting the environment.
So here's a new ally in the war on general purpose computing. Businesses and technologists who want to make billions of dollars raiding big tech's margins, and policymakers who want their country to become the disenshittification nation. The country that doesn't merely protect its people's money and privacy by buying jailbreaks from other countries, but rather the country that makes billions of dollars selling that privacy and pocketbook defending tech to the rest of the world. Now, that's a powerful alliance, but those are not the only allies that Trump has pushed into our camp. There is another powerful ally waiting in the wings. You remember last June, when the International Criminal Court in The Hague issued an arrest warrant for the genocidaire Benjamin Netanyahu, and Trump denounced the ICC, and then the ICC lost its Outlook access, its email archives, its working files, its address books, and its calendars? Now, Microsoft says they didn't brick the ICC. They say it's just a coincidence, but when it comes to a he said, Clippy said, between the justices of the ICC and the convicted monopolists at Microsoft, I know who I believe.
This is insane. This sort of stuff shouldn't happen. And to be fair, most of us don't even catch wind of. I think that's even worse.
Is exactly the kind of infrastructural risk that we were warned of if we let Chinese companies like Huawei supply our critical telecoms infrastructure. Virtually every government ministry, every major corporation, every small business, every household in the world have locked themselves into a US-based cloud service.
I mean, not that it's good when China does it, right? But that's very true, the point that he brought up. We don't even need to imagine a context where an alien is looking at the world and trying to understand this really weird set of rules that we just accept as normal. When China does it and it's framed and presented in the right way, that being like, how dare they, then it's a bad thing. But the US does the same thing and sometimes worse, and some things they don't do right? But like China, the bad guys that are so like stuck in uh whatever decade and are oppressing their people and other people, and they are. I'm not pro China in that sense, but it's very true that like the US gets away with so much stuff because for decades they have been able to position themselves as the good guys when really they do a lot of the same stuff that China do, that Russia does. Not so much most recently, but like, yeah, the commies. The commies are doing the bad stuff, right? Not the US though. KCB, you have to head out for a meeting. Now able to speak with family, made friends in Germany. Hey, cool, 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 cool. Well, thank you, for letting me know that, and it's I'm very happy to hear that. Here's to the year of Linux desktop. Yeah, let's hope we all become more tech savvy, or if governments actually do some of the stuff suggested by this guy. Anyway, have a good rest of the day, KCB.
The handful of US big tech companies that supply the world's administrative tools are all vulnerable to pressure from the Trump administration. And that means that Trump can brick an entire nation. The attack on the ICC was an act of cyber warfare, like the Russian hackers who shut down Ukrainian power generation facilities, except that Microsoft doesn't have to hack Outlook to brick the ICC.
Yeah,
Microsoft
they already
owns
have it.
Outlook.
Yeah.
Under the US Cloud Act of 2018, the US government can compel any US-based company to disclose any of its users' data, including the data of foreign governments, and this is true no matter where the data is stored. Last July, Anton Carnio, the director of public and legal affairs at Microsoft France, told a French government inquiry that he, quote, couldn't guarantee that Microsoft wouldn't hand sensitive French data over to the US government, even if that data was stored in a European data center.
Sorry, I can't guarantee. Just imagine that conversation. No, I get that. I get that you really don't want that, and that it's really iffy, and that it shouldn't be possible under any circumstance. But I just can't promise that. I don't know. We might have to. We might have to hand over all these sets of data, so these citizens. I'm, sorry.
Under the Cloud Act, the US government can slap gag orders on companies that it forces to cough up this data, so there'd be no way to know if this is happening or if it's already happened. It doesn't stop at administrative tools either. Do you remember back in 2022
That's
when Putin's
what's his
thugs
face,
looted
right? The
millions of
GPT
dollars worth
guy.
of John Deere tractors from
Open
Ukraine,
AI.
and all those tractors showed up in Chechnya? The John Deere company pushed a kill signal over the air to those tractors and bricked them. John Deere is every bit as vulnerable to the Trump administration as Microsoft is, and they can brick most of the tractors in the world, and the tractors they can't brick are probably made by Massey Ferguson, the #2 company in the ag tech cartel, also an American company just as vulnerable to political
Also
attacks
brickable.
from the US government. Now, none of this is news to global leaders.
All right, Michael. Thanks for checking in and for being so active in the chat. See you next time. Yeah. Bye bye.
Even before Microsoft and Trump bricked the ICC, they were trying to figure out a path to digital sovereignty. But the Trump administration's outrageous conduct and rhetoric over the past 11 months has turned digital sovereignty from a nice-to-have to a must-have. So finally, we're starting to see some movement, like Eurostack, a really...
With how much I've been pausing, we're going to take forever to get through this entire talk. We are about half an hour into a 1 hour talk. I would very much encourage you to watch the rest of it. I'm going to post the link in chat. It's called A Post-American and Gentrification-Resistant Internet by Cory Doctorow. This way. But you can... I can't do it in Streamlabs. Hold on, I need to actually open the window of, where's my stream window? It's gone. I need to open my own stream because I can't post it in my streaming software. There we go. We found a little bit of technical difficulty today. Anyway, I encourage you to watch the rest. If it interests you at all, I found it to be a very entertaining talk relative to how technical it is and how heavy the topic is. And there's a bunch of other interesting talks. I actually just thought, and I don't, this is just a thought that's ripening in my head. But with as many interesting talks as there were at that conference, I might, I feel like I might, there might be merit to, I'm trying to be careful about how I phrase this as to not make any promises. Uh, there might be merit to like reacting to some of those on stream because a lot of them, of course, are in German. A lot of them also were in English, as you could just see. But to like make listening content out of that, so to basically watch something in order to be able to um, allow for live questions as well as help with understanding some stuff that might not be as easy to understand, and also just give some commentary on it, which is then additional authentic German content. That might be something worthwhile. I'm gonna have to feel out how I feel about that. Because I don't, like I said, I don't want to make any fixed promises. Part of why I'm saying that now is because we have now reached, or almost reached, I started a bit late, um, the 2 hour mark of this stream, which means that it's about time I go, which is always a shame because this always goes by so fast. But yeah, it is what it is. I yeah, I'll look deep inside once again to see if I can um maybe convince myself to do a little stream here or there. Having a topic in mind already is always a good start because I feel like something that definitely blocks me from even considering the idea is the, for me, monumental mental and emotional effort to think of a reason to stream and a topic to talk about that might be interesting to you guys and actually draw people in and provide any sort of value where I feel like, yeah, no, I did something that people actually enjoyed. So maybe reacting to some stuff that I actually also find worthwhile might be an idea. I do I do consume a lot of content, so yeah, there might be something there. But like I said, I'm not promising anything because that wouldn't be fair. As always, if you want to watch for any sort of like live signals throughout the year, you can follow my Patreon. There's also an option on there to follow me for free. You probably won't be able to read posts that I make for paid patrons, but you'll see that I do post something, and sometimes within the recent past, I think I've posted one or two things for free as well. I started what I've definitely started doing over there, which most of you probably didn't receive any notification of because it's just been on the Patreon. This year, I have a class of students who are learning German. They're advanced German learners, but they're still, learning German as a second language. So I'm making materials for them. And at some point, it occurred to me that why not just also provide that to people who follow my Patreon? Because there's a couple people on there who have seriously been supporting me for these past 3 years, despite there not being any new content except for these little Happy New Year streams, and that was a way to finally give back a bit. So I will keep making content materials for that class, and not all of which I will probably find uh, useful enough, and some of which also is my own creation, so I can't upload it. But if I make something for those students, I will put it on the Patreon as well. So, yeah, I think that's an important thing I have to still get out there. I would tell you to go follow my gaming stream, but I haven't streamed anything on there in a while either, which I've also kind of been enjoying it, I have to say. But, you know, I'll be back there when I'm back there. It's still all there. So I will leave you with that open-ended as I do every year. I'm not gone. I'm still around. I do still think of DFE, and you might find me in some comment sections every now and then because I do use this account to actually do my YouTubing. But yeah, as for definite seeing each other as a definite like check-in, this this is it for this year. We'll see what the future holds. As always, I will not say there definitely will not be anything new, but just historically speaking, it's very unlikely I'll be back before next year. So, thank you to everybody who joined us today. More people than I expected, as every year. It's very nice to see there. So, like that tight core is still there. It's still here. It's all there until Trump has it deleted. Exactly. So you're aging like fine wine. I always find that to be a very weird phrase, but I know you meant it as a compliment, so we'll take it as such. Thank you. And yeah, of course, do consider subscribing to my Patreon. Just full disclosure, as I said, there isn't that much value being provided. It's really just for people who feel like, you know, maybe they've watched for a long amount of time, or they want to support me for different reasons. God, I'm so sorry. They want to support me for different reasons. Whatever it is, I'll be very happy to have more people join the Patreon. But just be aware that there's not much happening on there either. But I do check in every month there, so that's something, of course. Okay. Yeah. Glad to see the familiar faces in here, and I'll see you next time. Watchmaker says we're gonna be here. That's so sweet. Yeah, it's always nice to have a little place on the internet to return to, isn't it? Yeah. Dr. Cursor, your message sounded like it just came in. We're actually just wrapping up, but maybe you do know that anyway. I'm glad to see you as well. And yeah, bye everybody. Bis nächstes Jahr. Vielleicht früher, wahrscheinlich nicht. Aber ja, es war schön. It was nice. And word of the year? You're gonna spring that on me like in the moment I'm trying to like wind down and go offline? What's the word of the year? The word of the year is der Umbau. Der Umbau, which is one of the words you can use for a renovation. So der Bau is construction. The construction, like construction is a noun. And when you something, you're changing it. So Umbau means not reconstruction, but like new construction or something. Der Umbau. Der Umbau. Unser Haus ist immer noch nicht fertig. Es ist noch im Umbau. Our house still isn't finished. It's under construction. Der Umbau is our word of the year. And that's it. Yes, Dr. Cursor, have fun with the recording. It'll be up. And yeah, Firistraka, exactly. Der Umbau. You know, I struggle with endings. So this is the ending. Thank you for joining. Bis nächstes